All right, let's talk about the Warriors. I'm sure there's a lot of water Pedialyte being consumed today. Warriors #1, Rip, in your power rankings, their fourth title, 8 years. Looking ahead to next season, they're the favorite to repeat as champs. Are they the most complete team heading into next season?
Yes, I would say that definitely. I mean, when I looked at them early in the season, I always said that if this team can be healthy and Clay can kind of get his edge back and Steph can come back and play at a high level after injury, this team can do it multiple years. Their style of play and the way that Steve Kerr puts them in offensive set with the new rules, the freedom of movement, guys, you got multiple guys that can stretch teams out. I just believe that they got the right pieces. I mean, you got Draymond Green, one of the better leaders in our game of basketball, understands who he is and doesn't get caught up in saying, hey, you know what, I got to score more for us to win. I think that when you look at their roster, you might say, oh, Steph Curry's 34 years old. But if you look at the guys off the bench, I mean, James Wiseman didn't play all season long. I think he's going to be a star in the NBA. You got Jonathan Kuminga, a guy that we was all hoping that he got a little bit of playoff experience, that he's going to be very beneficial long term for the Golden State Warriors. Jordan Poole really came out of his shell, and he's been a guy that can now take over your offense for stretches out there on the floor. So I think they got a great young nucleus. They got great veterans on his ball club. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the San Antonio Spurs back in the day when they had Tim and Manu and Tony Parker. And then they brought in Kawhi Leonard, the added piece. And even though them guys were getting old, Kawhi was still there to kind of carry the torch on the offense. And so as these veteran guys get older, they still got a great young nucleus that can really take them over the hump.
Yeah, that's a great analogy with those Spurs team as they continue to evolve. I would say a couple of things with the Warriors. They got to get Jordan Poole. They got to make sure they extend Jordan Poole, get Andrew Wiggins re-signed or extended to make sure that those guys are happy. They don't have to worry about contract issues. This is one of the best constructed teams in basketball. Klay Thompson is going to be healthier. This was the year to actually beat the Warriors because I think they're going to be even better next year. And then some of the other guys, as Rip mentioned, Kuminga, he's going to go to the Las Vegas Summer League with Moses Moody. Those guys will get better. They'll see what they have with James Wiseman. But I think the key also is making sure you bring back a guy like Andre Iguodala. Because Andre Iguodala and Draymond Green, they are the extension of the coaching staff. And Steve Kerr really doesn't have to get angry or upset really with his players because Draymond Green and Andre Iguodala, especially you saw Iguodala coaching the bench doing playoffs and championship run. So make sure you bring all of those guys back. And if they do, the Warriors deserve to be the favorites for next year's championship.
So not a lot of questions about the Warriors. Let's talk about the Celtics coming in at #2 on Rip's power rankings here. Avery, runner-up to the title this season. I think we saw a lot of that inexperience getting exposed in those finals. So heading into next season and this offseason, I mean, was it just the inexperience and now they have it, or what more does Boston need?
Yeah, they got to get in the weight room and get stronger, especially Tatum. You can't have 100 turnovers in the playoffs and have quarters where you have 6 turnovers or you turn the ball over consistently at the critical junction of the game, especially in the fourth quarter. So he'll be able to go back, watch the film, review it, see how he can get better along with Jaylen Brown. I think the real big thing for them is they actually need a point guard. They need a full-time point guard where they can take some pressure off Marcus Smart, where he can play some part-time point guard, but really just be that great defensive combo guard that he is. And if they can find that, like that Jalen Brunson or Chris Paul type of a player to really take the ball out of Tatum and Brown's hands a little bit and have another maestro that can set the table and create some more plays for him. And then they got to improve that bench. If it's just White and Pritchard coming off the bench, that's you're relying on scoring. You got to get some more veteran players that's been around the block a little bit coming off your bench so that because I think they ran out of gas. Their bench didn't perform well in the latter part of those NBA finals.
Yeah, you could really see it there in the final two games. Rip, let's talk about the Heat coming in at number 4. A lot of good things to like about this Heat team this past season. Heading into this offseason, some news, PJ Tucker deciding to opt out of his player option, so he will become an unrestricted free agent. But Rip, pretty much anybody you talk to, it really seems like the Heat, they need another key piece.
I would agree with you, Amanda. I had the Heat actually coming out the Eastern Conference this year. When you look at their roster and how they're constructed, they got a lot of tough-minded individuals on this ball club. And they also got a lot of shooters on this team. When you look at Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and Max. But even Duncan Robinson, after signing a $100 million deal, really didn't play a whole lot in the playoffs. So I believe, yes, they need another star-type player to match up with Jimmy Butler, a guy out there that I think that the Heat should look forward to try to get in a trade is Bradley Beal. I mean, Bradley Beal is a guy that can take pressure off of Jimmy, another guy that can create his own shot. Miami don't have a lot of guys on their team that can create their own shot, especially off the dribble. Yeah, they got a lot of guys that can come off and down and make shots, but when the playoffs start and when teams take away your strengths, you need a guy that can just go get you a bucket. So when you look at this Heat team, Miami's always been about their culture. You know they're going to play hard. You know they're going to be tough-minded individuals. You know they're going to make the game tough. But I just feel as though they're missing that one-star player to add to Jimmy Butler so you can have more than just a one punch. You can have a 1-2 punch out there on the floor, especially late game and in playoff situations.
Let's talk about the Grizzlies, because I still love this Grizzlies team coming in at number 6 in your power rankings here. They end up losing it to the Warriors in the conference semis. And I love already, just because I like drama, I guess you could say. John Morant, Draymond, already kind of going back and forth at one another on Twitter this offseason here. But Rip, and I want to hear from both of you. Rip, we'll start with you, though. How did the Grizzlies become elite?
Well, I think that what they lacked this year was experience. And it showcases, it showed, especially playing against the Golden State Warriors. I mean, when you looked at the talent factor, they had that. John Morant was playing like an MVP player all year long. And the thing that I love about them is their swag. They believe. Like when you hear them going back and forth over Twitter and Instagram, going back and forth, this team really believes. They're not intimidated or scared by the Golden State Warriors. And Coach knows this. When you're a dynasty, when you're a team that wins multiple championships, you can sometimes come to an arena and beat teams before the ball was even thrown up, just because they're intimidated by your team and they don't even believe that they got a chance. Memphis believes. I mean, they got Jaren Jackson, a young kid that's took in strides and steps this year. Desmond Bane, a guy that could have easily got Most Improved Player of the Year. Brooks is a character, but also a guy that plays both ends of the floor, tough-minded defensively, and can knock down shots. I like this team. I like their swag. I want to see what they do in the draft. They got two picks, 22nd and 29th in the draft. See if they can add another young piece, a young shooter. They got to figure out what they're going to do at the backup point guard position if Tyler Jones end up leaving. But I like this group. I like their swag. I like how they play for each other, and they got one heck of a coach that's at the coaching realm.
Yeah, I like this team as constructed overall. I think they need to get another veteran player. And I would look towards a guy like a PJ Tucker, just a knockdown guy that can knock down corner threes. But more than that, his defense, a guy who's won a championship. You know, this guy won a championship with Milwaukee. So it's not just because of his offense, his defense, because he's not really an offensive juggernaut. But you need another veteran wing player. And the guys that they have, obviously John Morant needs to stay healthy, but Jaren Jackson needs to stay out of foul trouble early in games. Dylan Brooks needs to be more efficient and take care of the basketball. The same thing we've been talking about with Jason Tatum. I think they need to focus more on the court and not a lot of the silliness that's on social media. That comes with maturity. They can use a player. And the reason why I'm talking about a guy like a PJ Tucker, they need a veteran guy like a PJ Tucker, like an Andre Iguodala, somebody that can help that coaching staff settle this team down when they get out of control. This team is very cyclical. You know, in a lot of ways, they remind me of the old Clippers teams that was the highlight reels, you know, with Blake Griffin and those guys, but they never could really advance to the finals. But they were highlights and they were entertaining, but it was more style over substance. So let's see if they can make it to more of a substantive type of a team rather than all of the stylish points.
This is where Avery's wisdom comes into play and makes us feel bad, Rip. Where we like the chaos on Twitter. He's like, they got to be mature, and Rip and I are like, throw it out there.
Hey, Amanda, I've never been a head coach before, so you got to understand, Avery's been a great player and a great coach, so that's the coach side of him right there.
Well, Avery, let's talk about the team you coach, the Dallas Mavericks here, coming in at number 8. And I know you can talk to them. And this is why we don't see Luka sounding off on Twitter. Probably he listens to you there. I did send you a picture of Luka yesterday. He is looking trim. So that is step 1 for the Mavericks there. They do now have Christian Wood, traded away their first-round pick to the Rockets for that. But Avery, look, they need someone else. Luka can't do it all. Do you have any names in mind?
Well, I like this Christian Wood trade. You know, remember a couple of weeks ago, this is one of the names that I mentioned that I thought they should add. So maybe Mark Cuban in his front office was looking at and watching CBS Sports HQ when Rip and I were on with you, Amanda. But I think this was a nice move in the right direction. I think they're also going to have to figure out what happens with Tim Hardaway Jr. Is he going to be a guy they invested, $70 million into Tim Hardaway Jr.? He was out with his injury. So do you bring him back? Do you include Tim Hardaway Jr. to try to get another piece? You got to get Jalen Brunson re-signed, unrestricted free agent. You do not want to lose Jalen Brunson. Remember, he was the reason why they advanced past the first round against Utah when Luka missed with those first couple of games with that calf strain. So I think the key is re-signing Jalen Brunson, figuring out what you're going to do with Tim Hardaway Jr. They've addressed their rebounding and size inside with a more productive with Christian Wood, and run it back again. This team was right there knocking on the door, and that experience of playing in the Western Conference Finals, I think, is going to be very beneficial. And Luka does, Amanda. Luka looks really fit at this stage of the year, so watch out.
It's true. Let's go to the Nets coming in at number 9. Rip, on your power rankings here. Look, there's so much going on with this team already. You know, we're hearing that with Kyrie, they're at a stalemate when it comes to his contract there. You got teams like the Lakers and the Knicks who could potentially be after him. And when it comes to the Nets, can you even get an idea of what this team's going to look like next season right now?
I can't, Amanda. I mean, I was, preseason this year, I was all praises to this roster with Kyrie, James, and Kevin. Now coming into this season, now adding Ben Simmons, minus James, I still believe that they got an opportunity to make some noise in the Eastern Conference. But I think it's going to come down to coaching. I mean, with Steve Nash, how can you bring these guys together? How can you get these guys to believe that it's not about each other and you just can't run ISO ball the whole entire game? So Brooklyn got some questions to be asked. You hear about Kyrie, rumors of him being traded or going somewhere else. I heard that a couple months ago that Kyrie may be to the Lakers. And when you see that the reports come out the other day, they're saying that, hey, you know what, the Lakers have interest in. At the time, I didn't believe it. I said, no way. Just on how Kyrie left Cleveland playing with LeBron, that would never happen. But as you see, people forget fast. And I do believe that Brooklyn really explores and seeing that if they can get Kyrie to somewhere else, as long as it makes sense. So this team is still in shambles to me. So it's really hard for me to put them in the top of the Eastern Conference, just knowing that there's so much unknown out there.
Hollywood Hamilton, the little general, thank you so much. Going back to 04 and 99, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you very soon. Taking a look at upcoming NBA dates, of course, the biggest thing, the NBA draft this Thursday, June 23rd. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.